Okay, the Hazleton City Council regular meeting will come to order on Monday, February 15th, 2016. It's now 7:16. We had an executive session concerning the airport. Let's rise for a moment of silent meditation. Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Kuzo,
Present.
Gavio,
Here.
Mope. Here. Sosar,
Here.
Mundy.
Here. First is approving the minutes of the previous meeting, December 29, 2015, regular meeting, and January 4th, 2016, inauguration, regular meeting.
I'll present.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed. Proclamations, communications, none.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, before we get too far into the meeting, because of the nature of some newspaper articles and everything else that have been going on in the city, I'd like to ask for a suspension of the rules of the agenda for a while so that we may have a discussion and some questions proposed.
I second.
Roll call.
Kuzo,
Yes.
Gavio,
Yes.
Mope,
Yes.
Sosar,
Yes.
Mundy.
Yes. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay. I'm sure a lot of people saw the articles in the paper today, and conversation that's been transpiring over this last week and a half. And, Mr. Mayor, I've got a couple questions, and if you could help me out here, I'd really appreciate it. First and foremost, is there an actual amount of $500,000 that's been taken on out of the of a fund that Mr. Pabula had mentioned before that was designated for pension payment that is now being used in the city?
I don't know the actual amount.
Well, according to the newspaper today, it was approximately $500,000. We don't know how much is actually being used at all?
I couldn't tell you the exact amount of.
Is it more? Is it less? Is it?
It would be less if it wasn't exactly.
Okay, who did you speak to at the Public Employees Retirement Commission that gave you the approval for that?
James McAneny, McAneny.
I'm not going to ask for telephone numbers and that. If you can email them to me and supply them to me, I'd appreciate it, though, sir. Okay, if you can get that to me. Are all the monies that are being used to pay for salaries, expenses in the city coming from that same account right now, or are there other accounts that are being used as well?
Not that I'm aware of. I believe this money was used in the same aspect as a tax anticipation note would have been used.
Okay, so overall, what are the actual dollars and cents being used for? For all services, wages, etc.?
Again, I believe it was just moved to the general fund to operate the city through the month of January.
Okay, what's the interest rate that we're paying to pay this back? Would you know that offhand?
I believe
because
it
I've
was
seen two different numbers.
I believe it
now.
was .02 or .03. They were paying it to ourselves.
But that does still make a difference because a .02 is $20,000 and a .03 is $30,000. And that's a $10,000 difference. And really that does make a difference. And especially, I'm sure, to the people who are concerned about that money going back into where it should.
If
and
we
that's
would
the
have
pension
taken a
program.
tax anticipation note, we would have been paying 3% plus closing costs.
Okay, and why didn't we? I mean, we've not taken a pension, we've not taken a TAN out, I should say, in a number of years. Is it that we can't, or is it that we simply refuse to?
We were hoping that we didn't need one. I believe a lot of this transpired before I came into office, as this stuff is all dated from 2015. So the idea was there. We were hoping to get the property taxes billed out as soon as possible to avoid doing either one of these.
Okay, I do have a question that goes back to that money and the taxes, but I'd like to follow the process that I've got right now. We haven't asked for a TAN in years. Am I to understand that,
He's not here.
and I think the people here who are, as city workers, very much interested in past years where maybe this has gone on in past times. I don't know. Is this the first time that you're aware that money has been taken out of an account like this and utilized? Because we haven't taken a TAN out in, now this is my third year. I haven't seen a TAN yet. Has this been an ongoing practice?
That I wouldn't be aware of. I was given the same information the last 2 years that you were. And again, this may have been done prior to this year.
Well, if this has been done in prior years, no offense, I do know. And again, please understand, I'm not trying to point an accusatory finger, but I do think it's important that we have all the information so that people understand what's happening in the city of Hazleton and appreciate what's been going on. You know, we've been hearing for years that the city of Hazleton is in good financial shape, and obviously it isn't. If you've told us right now, or according to the newspaper today, if I understand correctly, I think the number was something like $216,000 that was in arrears from past year?
The day I took office, there was $261,000 of
61.
261 of unpaid bills.
Okay. So what I'm getting at is we have no good idea at this point of knowing, and I don't want to play scare tactics, but we've really got no good way of knowing if, in fact, this has been done in past years and if, in fact, all the money has ever been paid back, do we? And again, believe me, I'm not pointing a finger at you. I just want to know, is there been, and we can't ask Mr. Prabula because he's not here tonight, but could you please find out for us if he is aware of anything like this that's ever occurred before? Because I think that's important for the citizens of Hazleton, especially for the employees of the city to know. Is there any way that you could please pass that on to him? I'd like an answer, if you could. And I think you want an answer, too, to that.
I spoke with Mr. Hahn today, and he said while he was here, it wasn't done. But I have another question. Has there been approval from the pension board on this monies?
Pension boards? No. The emails that I have here say that Act 205 requires that all state aid funds be actually deposited into a pension fund within 30 days of receipt of the payment of the audit from the Auditor General. Then it goes on to say your EIT collections must be deposited into the pension funds annually, but you could access them for loans paid off within that period. So our understanding is as long as it's paid off by December 31st, when it actually must get paid into the pension, that we can use it.
But I have a problem with that as well, because if in fact this money is earmarked for the pensions, and I was shocked, I don't know how anybody else here feels on the dais, but I was shocked last time on out that Mr. Prabula told us that there was $1 million sitting in a fund for the pension. Now, I understand that we owe more than that, but here's the question that I ask. If there's that much money that needs to be paid back and paid in addition money to the pension, because the city of Hazleton is number 11 on the worst distressed pensions in the state of Pennsylvania, why has that money been allowed to sit there when we're so distressed?
You can only pay in what is required, and he is unaware of why we collected excess money that it is there. This is the reason that next year we should not have to raise
And that
the
goes,
EIT.
exactly. That goes back exactly what we're talking about from last week, that everybody really got upset about. We are, at present time, evidently overcharging people in the city of Hazleton the EIT tax, if in fact there is excess that sits year by year in the EIT fund. Now, again, I understand for the good people who pension, that's to go to. You know what? I want to see them have the money paid. You know, remember, I think you will agree with me that we've been sitting here. You and I sat here a number of times, and in fact, you had mentioned that 75% that we were paying was going to come to an end, and that we should have been on it last year, that we should have been paying 100%. This year again, we're at 75%. Why is the city? And I know we're hurting for money. Believe me, I understand that completely. But why are we sitting on employees' pension money when we could have been paying 100% towards
The pensions.
making them whole, when instead the city is going on out and simply saying, let's just do what we want to with that money and pay salaries? I'm not sure I can reconcile everything. How do we reconcile that, sir?
Reconcile this
The
excess?
75%, no, the 75%, first of all, instead of the 100, and we've been asking for 75%, because this council has been under the impression that we don't have the money to pay. But evidently, we had more money to pay than we thought to make these employees whole.
I became aware of this about 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. I'm not sure about that. I couldn't ask him.
And I can appreciate that. I ask you, and I ask you
The way
to-
they say it now is you cannot make excess payment. So all we could do next year is when we pay the 100%, use this money as instead of increasing. And then the following year, there's going to have to be the increase to go to the 100%.
And I understand that may very well be, and I don't think the good people of town would be remiss in saying if they have to make things whole, they will do that. But I see the problem falling right now on the fact that I don't want to say outright, I just don't know how this money has gotten to the point of being used as it has, and simply forgetting about our employees. Let me ask you this. Are we paying all employees? Are we paying all employees right now through this money? And I've got a real important question. Or maybe let me ask to the other question, because this is important.
I'm going to say, if I understand your question, this money was transferred to the general fund. Therefore,
So it is paying all.
every bill is being paid with this money.
Okay, so let me get to the next question.
And if
that I
it was
guess is
if
probably
it
one-
was transferred back in the beginning of the year to take care of the 2015, it was probably expended within the first week.
Okay, but here's what I'm getting at. Number one, if it's paying all of the employees and it's paying out money out of the general fund, number one, you've issued, and I have question about, and Mr. Solicitor, this question's going to you right now, okay? Please, so be ready. I do not believe there is such a thing as an executive order, not on the city level. There is not such a thing as an executive order. And I cannot show you in the third-class city code where it gives the mayor...
I don't believe we
Okay.
ever said there was an executive order. I sat there last year with you and said there was no executive
Right,
orders.
and so I think it's improper for you to have issued an executive order, an executive action for the hiring of a person. Okay, and I don't want to get
Talking-
into names right now
Are you
because...
talking the health officer?
Yes, sir.
I asked them to send out a memo. I can't help she wrote executive order. And if we want to talk about that, the reason the health officer was appointed was we had a dead body that needed to go to the Dominican Republic, and we could not ship it
And
without
I
the signature of a health officer.
fully appreciate that.
As the coroner stood here, I had to appoint someone, so I appointed the person with the...
Again, I'll fully appreciate that, okay? I can fully appreciate that. Thank you for your explanation. But anybody who uses the term executive order is out of line, okay? And that should have been corrected immediately. I can't show you a negative. I cannot take anybody here, any place, and show an executive order that exists.
As soon as I got my copy, I did address the writer to change it to memo number.
I would please, that could have eliminated a couple of points here on this, had we been able to do that. But let me go further. Are the administrators of the city of Hazleton being paid out of these funds right now, sir?
Yes,
Why?
because it's money from the general fund.
It's money from the general fund, but nobody's been hired yet.
Do you want to address that?
Well, what we were discussing, or what I was going to discuss with council tonight, if the issue came up in terms of the administrators, was that I think that this issue needs to go to our labor council at this point. I think because of the fact that our option Plan B and the duties of the mayor don't specifically say when appointments have to be made. They also don't address, obviously we talk about the advice and consent of council.
That's exactly there, sir.
Advice and consent of council, we don't have definitions as to what advice and consent of council mean. We also have certain issues that are going to come up in terms of employment because we do have people that have been in acting positions now for quite some time. I think it's a situation that needs to be addressed by our labor council because of ramifications that could happen if we just start acting without his opinion.
But you already have. You already have. You've said right now that you've been paying people for a month and a half, and you don't know at this point whether or not, from legal counsel, what you're doing is appropriate or not.
Well,
Well,
the
I
real
think-
question, why did we approve you then?
That's the thing. That's another, obviously, me giving you an opinion regarding a position
Well,
that
no, I'm glad
being
you're
appointed to
you're
is a-
here so that you could give us an opinion, but by the nature
Approved
of what
advice
you've
and
just
consent.
said, part of what you've just mentioned has created a real problem for us because right now you're saying that you question and you got to have legal counsel as a labor counsel tell us if the body of administration be sitting behind you is legal or not. And that's what I'm concerned about. Again, and this is council's responsibility. Council does take care of the purse strings. And so this is a very important task that, and, we do take it serious, regardless, sometimes what people may think or not of us. But I am concerned because we have suggested since January, when will council see appointment of the administration? And we've been, and I'm not sure why, and if there is a solid reason, I'd like to know, but it would be helpful And now you're talking legal counsel. Here comes more money, because now we've got to go to the special lawyers to find out what we can and what we can't do.
Well, I think it's an issue of where, based on our ordinances and based on option Plan B and the way that all reads, I think this is something that council's probably going to have to legislate for. I think it's going to be a situation where we're going to have to sit down and write legislation that's going to have to deal with the acting positions, that's going to have to deal with appointments when they need to be
Go to
made.
88.1 and 88.2.
We did.
And
The
what do they
director-
say? And what has been the standard since this form of government came into being? The appointments were put before council, and council voted on the appointments. And it has been since this form came in. So you're going to come in on that this form is not, it's incorrect. Joey, you were here when it first started. You know, and these people, when I saw somebody put somebody up, they voted, the council voted them down. The mayor put up another person. Now you're going to tell me that the actions have been incorrect all this time.
I'm not saying that the actions have been incorrect. We also have to take into account past practices. We also have to take into account that there could be certain employees or certain employees or appointees that might have vested rights and certain things like that that should be addressed before council and the mayor gets a full opinion on what we should do in this situation. I want to give you all the information. I want you to have, everything in front of you, all the consequences before you make any decisions.
You've got people acting in positions right now, and you've got people acting in positions for now a month and a half. And I'm not quite sure how long you're going to continue acting in questionable actions then, as to who's doing what, under what circumstances, what is the legality, what are the ramifications, what is the liability. You've got a lot of questions.
Now where's our
I
insurance covenant
understand
to
that
play?
there are some good people back there who have served in capacities that they've served in for a couple years already. But I also have people sitting back there who have not. And I don't know the legalities on who's got the right to do what. And you're telling me now we're going to have to spend more months, but we're going to pay, what are we paying people? Do we know what the salaries are at this point of who's receiving what?
I'd say yes, they receive paychecks.
Well, I'd like to, no, I
Well,
want to
we
see
don't see
them.
paychecks. How would you
I
know
wanna see
what a
them.
department administrator's getting?
How do I know?
No, how would council know?
How would we know?
Of course we don't see paychecks.
I have all the agreements of
Okay,
hiring,
then
when I
if you
hired
would please
everybody.
send to me, if you can, tomorrow, what I'd like is the entire administration back there. I would like to know what their yearly salaries are, plus benefits and any other items that go along with that.
Wasn't that included in what Tom sent us last week?
No, it was not, that I know of. I didn't receive anything like that from him.
Did you say you had agreements? But you just said he's not sure how to do it. So how could you have an agreement?
I believe I could hire anybody I want, and then it goes to council for approval and with consent, but there's no definition of consent. There's nothing that says what's the ramifications when they're voted down or if they're voted in.
When they're voted down?
Well, there has been
Okay,
always...
but when they voted down,
There's always been ramifications to it. The sad fact is that nobody in this town has ever wanted to follow them. You know, you've had mayors that have sat here for years who have simply, you know it, you and I have even talked about this, that have simply thumbed their nose at the Hazleton City Council and said, we don't care what this body politic decides to do whatsoever. We're going to do what we want to do as the mayor. And I've had people spell it. I've had people edict. I've had people dictate. I've had people do everything. All I want is if I got to pay the bills, I'd like to know what bills I'm paying and under what circumstances I'm paying them. I think I have a right to that.
This has also been a way for them, the administrators, to circumvent the council. They've used executive orders, they've used acting. Acting has gone on for long periods of time. And it's a way for the mayors not to have to bring a vote in front of council. So therefore, there is no nay or yay, which is what is standardly done. It's been
Yeah.
done since,
And I'll take it one
Since
step further,
1988
because
when
Jeannie
this form came in.
has, even before I got on council, Jeannie had kept me up to date quite often with Jackie over here to help me understand and go further on what they were fighting and what they weren't, and to get caught up to date. What I'm doing right now is simply asking, I hope, legal questions from the third-class city code. I've read it. I understand what the advice and consent, and you know what? Go. You want to compare it to advice and consent on the national level? You don't get the the consent of the Senate. Guess what? Doesn't make a difference. Go ask Judge Bork. Go ask any of the justices of the U.S. Supreme Court. God forgive him and God bless him, Justice Scalia right now. But you don't get approved by the Senate. You're out. Ask any of the senators who were suggested as secretaries of state. You know what? I'm having a senior moment now, and I can't remember the good gentleman's name from Texas that had been because of supposed womanizing, and the Senate turned him down. So, advice and consent does mean something. It's not a simple gloss over that I can hire who I want to. That has been, the sad fact is, that has exactly been the role that mayors in this city have played for years.
Not all of them.
I can do what
I
I
have to be
want,
fair,
when I
not all
want,
of them.
how I want, and this 5-member board doesn't make a difference.
Do you understand, David was on the government, he was the advisor to the Government Study Commission that brought about this form of government. I mean, you're asking things, and there's the man who truly does know.
he wrote the book.
Oh, I understand that. What I'm saying is we have executive powers and we have the legislative powers, and obviously there's a balance between the two and that there's sometimes conflict between the two. And like Dr. Sosa said, it would be much easier if we had what like the Department of Justice has, where we know exactly what advice and consent
I don't want to go to
means.
the Department of Justice right now at all. Don't use that as your example.
The national level, if advice and consent of the Senate means this, an acting position means 90 days for this. What we're lacking in our third-class city code and option plan B is we're lacking the definitions. We're lacking the procedures to take when, for example, what would happen if an appointment was put up for advice and consent of council, and we determined that consent of council means a majority of council. That person is voted down. Is that person now the acting person, or is that person
Well,
nothing?
Tom's
There is
the
no
acting.
position.
That's what happened with Prabula.
That person has never been acting anyplace else. That person has not been acting on the state level.
No.
That person's not been acting on the national level.
What happens if somebody's voted down? Who takes the job?
Then
It's up
you
to
present another
responsibility
one,
to you,
just
Jeff,
like
to
Michael
name
did.
somebody else,
So you just keep naming people until you have one?
right?
Yes.
It
That's
doesn't-
the way it
does-
works.
Doesn't fall back to the person that was there before?
No,
No.
it does not.
Doesn't say that in the code?
No.
Or would that be an unending, almost veto power that council would have over the executive?
No,
You know what? No offense, but the council and the mayor need to work together, and they need to come up with somebody who both can feel comfortable with. This is not a dictatorship, and I'm not expressing that Jeff wants to. I have a great deal of respect for him. But the fact of the matter is that this body here has, and I'll say it, and people can say, well, now we understand why Sosar is saying what he's saying. But for too long, for way too long, mayors in this city have snubbed their nose at this city council and said, we don't care what you have to say, we don't care what you do, we're going to do what we want to, and the heck with you. And I've cleaned that up a lot. So the fact is that this council believes that it has the right, and it does, and you go back and check any of these advice and consents that you want, and I will guarantee you that it says again and again, now notice I'm not even yelling tonight, this is good for me, okay? But it says that if this person doesn't meet the consent, It's back to the drawing board. And you can go any place and anywhere and look that up, and I guarantee you, you will find that again and again. On the state level, the only place where you could have changed this at all is if this would have been written into the charter that the mayor would have had the responsibility and the capability of doing exactly what he wanted in naming people. We are not a home rule charter. We are an optional plan law. We follow the third-class city code when it comes to this, and it says, with the advice and consent of council. I'm sorry, that's the way it is, and and we can banter about this for the entire night. I don't want to waste everybody's time. It's cold in here. To you people up there in the gallery, God bless, at least you're in the warmer spot. So with the hot air that I'm issuing, I know it's warmer up there.
May I
Okay?
jump
But
in
I
here for a
have-
minute?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris.
Where does it leave us legally now on our E&O insurance? If
I
we're gonna wait.
believe every one of the guys sitting behind me is an employee of the city.
No, I know, Jeff, you do, but what about the insurance? Believe me, I've seen insurance companies come back.
I believe
as
we
you
had
have.
this conversation 2 years ago when Steve was here, and we questioned all that E&O about people coming in. I believe we had this conversation when Tom first came in.
But you voted no for Tom. What am I missing?
Well, now there's a court case that says that he wouldn't be. The reason I voted no for him was he didn't live within the.
Okay, and can I just throw something in here real
Yes.
quick?
Sure, it's your meeting.
Thank you. And I missed it tonight. One of the local TV stations, and I had to leave to come to this meeting before they announced it. There is a decision counselor, and I would ask you to check this on out. For those of you watching the news tonight on 1628, any of the local news stations, there is a decision that was handed on down that may help clarify some of this as well, that deals specifically with residents, because they said it was an issue that would affect cities like, and I don't know what it is. I might be shooting myself in the foot. I don't know. But it says that there is a decision that was handed down today. I don't know if it was by the legislature, by the court, or wherever it was, that deals with the residency requirements. Sam, news media, please, counselor, if you could find that on out. I don't know what they said, but they did talk about
A new
the fact that
decision
there's
or a past decision?
a new decision, evidently. Please don't quote me, because again, I tried to wait as long as I could, and I don't know how important it is, because they got to the weather, and it hadn't been covered yet. But there is a decision, it may be on the news tonight, that deals with residency, and they said, this may affect Hazleton, Wilkes-Barre, and all the other cities. Now,
Could
I
it be
don't-
the one that was from 2014? The one I've been talking about?
Jeff, I honestly don't know.
But that's not, that's
I
a
honestly
home rule
couldn't
charter.
tell you. This says that this would affect.
It's still unconstitutional to tell somebody where they
I
have to live.
understand that. That's why I brought it up, to try to dispel this.
Sylvia, I
Thank
have
you,
to say
Sylvia.
something, though.
Okay?
We have to realize with the EIT and when the money was used from the pensions, this is important.
I think we are.
On the point
Okay,
on the
okay.
pensions
Now-
is important.
Let me go
you
to
have-
one more step, because this was part of the confusion of the last time, and this is where I may get the most furor, but I'm going to go through this anyway. Because last time on out, and this was said by a few people in your administration, and it was led as a I think everybody got played on this one. If you want the truth, I think everybody got played on this one, because the increase in the real estate and the increase in the EIT would have matched precisely $1 million, which we were talking about, which was to go, if I remember correctly, was to go for 10 police officers. But how could it go for 10 police officers if we had a hole of $500,000 that was going to have to be collected to fill in that gap that existed, that couldn't really not in any way, shape, or form be filled in any other way? So the only thing that we were really ever talking about was 5 at best. And council has already suggested that it was trying. And I believe the mayor's office and council together is truly trying to help on out and increase that which we can, but it sure as heck was not going to be the 10, because that
There's only 6 months left.
500,000
There's only
was going
6
to be
months
put-
left in 2016. It would have filled the hole, hired the 10
wanna-
for half a thing, and it would have been there for next year to
I'm
fund
not
the 10.
quite sure, Jeff, how you're counting your months, but this is February yet. We work
Okay.
on a calendar year, not a fiscal year of
Okay.
June or October like the
It
feds
takes-
do. We use a
We
calendar
we
year.
have 5 guys, or 5 officers that are potentially going to be hired. It's taken 4 months so far to hire the process. You still have 2 months to go.
Okay,
So-
but on the same token, Jeannie, God bless her, took a lot of flack on this, and I think needlessly, last week, because, and of lies and innuendos that were suggested, when in fact we knew that $500,000 was going to have to go on in and pay this debt off. So we're not really ever talking about that which was going to be true, okay? Let's be honest about it right now. Let's talk about that $500,000, okay?
Okay,
I'm holding a 2015.
please, please, you could speak later. You could speak at the podium when your turn comes up.
Well, I mean, come on.
Jeff,
Okay? Now,
go ahead.
and I'm almost finished. But with all of these, I've got one last thing that I want to get into, because this, you know what, there's a lot of things that are playing together in here. And I've received some information about a young man who has a house that is less than a year that he's owned the house. And I'd like to know about this as well, because this plays into it. When we need money, are we doing the wrong thing? He's owned the house for less than a year. And he didn't pay his tax bill for this year, I understand. And you can condemn him for that, but it's only been less than a year. He's already received a notice from that his house is being foreclosed on, and that by a certain revenue agency, and that if he doesn't pay the money that he owes for the house, $250 for a fee for being late, and a 0.75% per month late fee, that he's going to have the house sold in the first or the very next upset sale. And I guess what I'm asking you, Mr. Mayor, is this a mistake that the city has made in issuing directives like this to people who are in arrears, number one?
That's from the city?
It wasn't from the city. It actually came from Northeast Revenue.
Okay.
Is it
that's-
Northeast Revenue's mistake? But Northeast Revenue should only be acting on what the city gives it, right?
Northeast Revenue is what the county gives it.
Okay, so here's my question. Did the city give them a mistake on this gentleman, and how many people might have
Well,
made
I
mistakes?
don't know what are the circumstances he
They-
bought the house in. Could there have been any, did he make sure he buy the free and clear title when he bought the house?
As from what I understand, it's all free and clear, and he has been given a
That-
bill.
that's-
I don't care. If it's
Well,
only
it's-
9 months that he's had the house, how could he get, because you have to have
That's
3
not a
years.
city, that's not really a city issue.
Actually, it
Okay,
is,
well,
because they
it
don't have
is.
the county on
Is it Berkheimer's, is it Northeast Revenue, or is it the city?
And
Either
the
way, it
school-
wouldn't be, it
School
would have
How would
district
that
isn't
be?
done yet.
it would have nothing to do with the city.
Okay, so then in other words, it's either Berkheimer's or it's Northeast Revenue's.
Berkheimer, Northeast, that county, it could be any one of the title company, it could be any one of those issues. That's nothing that would deal with the city itself.
Well,
This-
like I said, I know
all
we're
the city
hurting for
would do-
money, so I just want to know for sure.
All the city would do is report the unpaid taxes after 2 years.
That's right.
So
Right,
that has
2
nothing to
years.
do with the city.
Which would go into the third when it could be
Correct.
sold. So this young man has no reason to be receiving this letter.
I couldn't say that. I mean, I don't know what kind of title he had when he purchased it, if there's
Could you-
any liens
Jeff,
against
Could you
it.
find
could
out
you have
about that?
somebody
I'll
look-
get you the
look for us?
information.
Yeah.
I'll get
You
you
know
the
what?
information.
If you get the name,
The
okay?
gentleman's here.
Is the
Would you-
gentleman
Would
here?
you like to speak with him?
Okay,
Well,
would you please
let's-
speak to them at the end,
Again,
at the
yeah,
end,
at the end of the
the
meeting.
end of the meeting,
Yeah,
okay?
It's not a city issue.
And then let's see
Yeah,
what
it
we can do
is.
to help the gentleman out.
We can
Okay.
try to help him.
It is.
I only have,
And I'm done right now. And I please,
You're go-
thank you, Sylvia.
I only-
But you know what? these things have to be cleared up, and whether some people like it or not, they have to be cleared up.
Yes.
Because it's time that we finally get on all the same page and do what we have to do, and make government work for people instead of against people. Now, you may feel very well that
And-
it's cold in here and not like it, but
And,
I'd
and every
rather
one
be
of these
cold for a
questions
while.
every one of these questions could have been answered in my office where it was nice and warm.
No, no. You can say that if you want to, but I'd rather do
I
this
have-
to the general
okay.
public. Thank you.
I just have one thing to say, Jeff. I
Okay.
mean, and I don't want to fight with you, I don't want to yell at you, but when you found this out 6 weeks ago, you know, being on council, our job on council is to watch the finances in the
Excuse me,
budget
can
of
we
the
tell,
city.
keep the noise down, please?
The finances in the budget of the city. That's our main job.
Yes.
You should have, when you found this out, came to us and said, we want to do a transfer. This could be a great idea. I'm not saying we wouldn't have approved it or disapproved it, but this is something that should have came before council, I think. Don't you think?
I sat over there when Tom brought the issue up. This wasn't something new. This was brought up by Tom and Joe last year when we first, yes.
It didn't come before us.
They talked about it. He said there was a money available to borrow.
But he didn't say from where, Jeff.
He never told us where it was coming from.
The
Nobody
That's what he
told
said,
us.
there
The
there
only
was
time
money
that
But
we
what
available.
I'm
never
saying
How
heard
would
is-
he have known when you didn't pay your pension yet by the end of the year? I don't know, I wasn't here, so you
You
can't
could
say.
calculate, just like we know that
Jeff,
that
I'm saying
1.3
you're
is not
transferring
going
$500,000 from one place to another. We should be aware of it, and council should know about it.
Again, I believe it took place before I took office.
Yeah, but after you found out about it, you came and told us about it, not wait 6 weeks later. So, the whole thing is, council wants to work with you. We want to work with you to solve these problems with the city. We're not against you, we're not going to fight you everything. This could be a good idea that if you came to us, we would have agreed to it, rather than getting a Tans note, we're playing our self-interest. But you shouldn't have hid it from us. You hid this from us for 6 weeks.
I don't think it was hidden. It was
The unions know?
brought up last year to us, and I believe it was took effect before I took office.
Was this Tom's idea?
Yes.
Okay. I
And
just wanted to
he
know.
brought that up when they introduced the budget to us last year. He mentioned this.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
No.
Were the unions made aware
No,
of this?
we can
Okay.
argue this
I
again
don't
and
know.
again, too.
You
But
don't know.
the fact is, we want, you know what?
Okay.
Again,
Go.
let's go.
Okay.
Let's go ahead,
I
Grace.
feel
Go
like
ahead.
I'm
Just
against
one
the
more
O.J.
question.
Simpson team here.
Unfortunately, the fact is, we discussed ways in which to address some of these issues with the police and hiring them. Jeff and I did, along with the president of the police. We discussed it. I suggested a credit line, because that way we could keep the money there directly for the hiring. And I get back that we can't take a credit line. Yet I've watched authorities have a credit line for years, and there's no problems with it. And it's just so odd that it adds up. The 5,000 is approximate what the cost would be for 5 police.
500.
Or 500,000. I wish it was 5,000. Excuse me. And then you wanted $1 million, or then you wanted to borrow it over 10 years, and another 500,000. Was that going to be paying the pension money back?
Eventually, it's the same as taking a tax anticipation note.
I understand what it is.
It's still $500,000.
But
We
you
need
said, and
$500,000.
you and I have discussed this about keeping things out in the public. You and I extensively.
I'm not hiding anything. We owe $500,000. Last year's budget was garbage. We have to make up for that money last year. We have to make up for it. We're $261 short before I took office, and we had another payroll come out.
But you know what?
We're
You're saying
short.
that, but according to the audit, you had extra money from 2014, and you didn't put it in the budget. You did not put it in the budget, because I went through the audit, okay?
Where did it go? I'm not going to argue with
Okay.
that. I'm not arguing
Okay,
with that in
okay,
public.
let's-
That's just stupid.
Okay, let's move on to the meeting. Okay, before we let the audience talk, I know there's issues here that are passionate. Please, keep your applause to a minimum, or not at all. We want to get through the meeting. Please be brief in your statements. You could speak now on anything on our agenda now, and you could speak at the end of the meeting, whoever wants to speak. So who would like to speak first? Go ahead.
First, before I start, I wish you branches would work together. And I sometimes wonder how our city survives. It's not just the crooks and the dope pushers. We have to fight you people, too. And we see us fighting with one another. When the hell are you going to get along and work together? I'm 79 years old, and I've lived here in Hazleton for 69 of those years. In all that time, I don't remember seeing police in Hazleton wearing bulletproof vests, but I see them wearing bulletproof vests now. In all that time, I don't remember seeing police carrying those shields with the rectangular hole in it, but I see them carrying those shields now. They are now facing hardened criminals, and our policemen and women have to face those hardened criminals every day. Why? Because something inside them wants to protect you and me and everyone in this room. As I said in a previous meeting, the first duty of any city government is to keep its people safe, especially its children. That is what the mayor, our police chief, and our police are trying to do. But they need help, and you people aren't giving them any. You keep demanding that our policemen and women make concessions by giving up some of their salary, by working 12-hour shifts, and you, Gene, go so far as to blame those policemen who moved for increased crime in their former neighborhood. Do you realize how ridiculous that sounds? Telling the police they can't move because it causes crime to rise in their neighborhood? Don't you think that's going too far? Don't you think that's carrying the ego trip a little bit too far, too? And you, Jack, telling the good people who showed up for the last meeting that you don't care how many people showed up for the meeting, you are going to do what you feel is right for the city. Remember, Jack, you said that to the young mother who stood right here with tears in her eyes because she was afraid to let her children be children. She was afraid to let them play. She was afraid to let them go to school activities. You said that to a judge who said the violence is spreading in the courtroom. I'm sure there has been outbursts in courtrooms before, but I felt he was telling us there isn't any respect for our courtrooms because the drug pushers and gangs don't have any respect for Hazleton. You said that to the little old lady who had her purse snatched out of her hands coming out of the Senior Citizens Center. You said it to the lady I know who heard gunshots flying past her window and ended up with bullet holes in her house. You said that to the elderly couple who were beaten up by thugs who invaded their home. On a number of occasions, you people mentioned the phone calls you get concerning taxes. Well, I get phone calls too. And when I'm out at church or shopping, people tell me to keep fighting. I was in church on Ash Wednesday, and I was getting up to go get communion, and the lady in the next pew said, Sylvia, don't stop going to council meetings. So we get them too. And I'm sure you must have gotten some calls concerning crime. Crime is here, and it's real. People are being robbed, beaten up, homes are being invaded, and dope is flowing free in Hazleton. Of course, according to Gene, people just have a bad perception of crime in Hazleton. You want our policemen to give up some of their salary and benefits, work 12-hour shifts, and, I almost forgot, they can't move. In other words, you demand they make concessions. Well, when are you people going to make concessions? When are you going to help the police? Are you going to wait until an innocent person is shot, especially a child? Well, if you're not going to give the people of Hazleton those 2 policemen, then I suggest that you give part of your salary up. We can't hire policemen with it, but we could buy a couple of cameras. Thank you.
Who's next? Okay. Go ahead.
My address is to Mrs. Mope also.
Okay, now wait. First of all, You're not supposed
No,
to
it's
address...
on the agenda.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine. I
it's-
can
it's what's
address
on the
all of you.
agenda,
It's
and you
fine.
address us as a whole.
That's fine. I'm just
whole.
quoting figures that were repeated.
I need your name, please.
Renee Myers.
Okay, thank you.
Last meeting, a very gracious taxpayer offered his own salary for, the hiring of patrolmen, and he was asked if he made $132,000 a year. And then he was repeatedly asked, is that what you make? Is that what you make? Because that's what some of these police officers are making. I have in front of me a W-2 from 2015 for a 10-year veteran patrolman. This is not a new hire. This is not someone who's been on the force for 2 years. They're a family member to me, and with overtime, they brought in $66,000. So my issue is that you are grossly misinforming the public when you suggest that patrolmen, and there is a difference between patrolmen, detectives, sergeants, etc. We are looking to hire patrolmen. When you suggest patrolmen are making $132,000 a year, you are lying to your constituents. You are misleading your constituents. You owe those patrolmen an apology. And by the way, this patrolman in particular lives on Alter Street for the better part of a decade, and it's not getting any better on Alter Street. So that kind of blows that theory out of the water. And in addition to that, they're the first people on the scene. They handle the majority of the calls, and they also don't have backup most of the time. And I honestly think this council needs to apologize to this city's patrolmen for exaggerating their salaries and misleading the rest of us. This is Hazleton. You're supposed to represent us. From where I'm standing, you don't represent us. That's all I have to say.
Okay, anyone else? Matters on the agenda only? Okay. Go ahead.
John Leonard, Hazleton. I believe the reference to 2016-33. I believe the current method of residing within 10 miles is appropriate for city employees. I would challenge you to provide incentives to officers, however, to live in the city and fire department personnel. Let's talk property values. Many people who would like to move and go to greener pastures are unable because people are not willing to pay what their house is worth. In order to bring in the best possible candidates to our departments within the city, we're going to be hamstrung to hire adequate candidates in any department if we're just looking organically within the city. As an officer, I had threats while employed as a city police officer. In fact, my house was shot up in 2004 while I was working. My wife and newborn were at home, and I was the responding officer to my own residence. You know, continuing to live on the edge is not a good sense for an officer. In November 2006, I was involved in another incident following which I continued to have death threats against me. I would have to sit on my couch with a shotgun on my lap in order to protect my family for fear of individuals coming to my residence to kill me or harm my family. While we have chosen this profession in life as officers and protectors of the city, the life of an officer and his family should not have to live in fear and constant fear. You know, I live in the city. I've lived in the city many years. But I still think that having that option of living outside should be provided. Thank you.
It's my fault, and I do believe people that work in the city. This one's mine, so you can yell at me, JJ. It is
Not
totally
yelling.
mine, honey.
I'm just stating facts.
No, it is mine.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. You're up.
Hello. My name is Edwin Mieses. I'm a pastor at West Hazleton, but I'm also a resident of Hazleton for 17 years. I've been living here, and I came here to start a church. I've seen the city of Hazleton grow, new citizens. I've seen law-abiding citizens that have moved here looking for a better life, and I counsel many of them. I've also seen crime increase. I've seen it grow from white-collar crime to hardcore drug dealing. I counsel a lot of people. I talk to a lot of kids. Sorry, I'll get a little choked up. I've been living in the same street all the time, in Grand Street, for 17 years. I've had to stop drug deals in my corner of my house many times. I'm not a police officer. I have a badge, but I'm a chaplain. And it's kind of, I don't know, Hazleton is changing, and it has changed. Like the saying goes, we're not in Kansas anymore. This is not, some unknown city. Everybody knows Hazleton now. We have one of the major roads that comes from Philadelphia, from Harrisburg, New York. I call 93 the Ho Chi Minh Trail because all the drugs come through here, go to Wolfsbury and Scranton. I know this firsthand. People talk to me. A drug dealer comes by to make a drop-off and drops a package, sees Hazleton's, hardly sees any police, or don't see none at all. And to them, this is an opportunity for them to put a home base here, in which some of them already have done that. And that is going to draw more crime. It's going to draw prostitution. It's going to draw more robberies, convenience store robberies, home invasion, plain daylight, no fear of nothing. And unless we do something, and I'm just here to plead that you as City Council, and I know the new mayors and the new chief are trying to do a lot of good work so far in a short time that they've been here. I would like you guys to consider hiring more policemen. I know that might raise up taxes a little bit, but the price to pay to have somebody innocent being shot, some kid being shot because he's watching TV and a bullet just comes through. I've seen this. I live in Massachusetts. I live in the Boston area. And I seen a city just like Hazleton. It was nice and quiet. Lawrence, Massachusetts. Go visit it now. The drug lords, they run the city. And, before you get to that point, you still have a chance to do something about it. Take the bulls by the horns. Is that what they say? You still got that chance. And please, don't overlook it. Do whatever you have to do. Come together and come up with a plan. I'm sure there's a lot of smart people here. Amen. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nathan Lee. I have a business here in Hazleton. I was born and raised in this city my whole life. And I moved back here about 15 years ago to give my son a slice of what I grew up with. So to see what is happening is not good. I want to say that I think that safety is the number one issue. You can't get businesses to come into Hazleton. You have folks that can afford to move out of Hazleton, moving out of Hazleton and move into the valley and nicer areas, and those that can't won't. And I think that what I watched on TV a couple of weeks ago in this meeting was just horrible. I couldn't believe what was happening here. I really didn't hold it against the people. I held it against this council, I'm sorry to say, because if it gets too hot, maybe you shouldn't be in the kitchen. If anybody should keep their decorum about them, I think it's you folks. These folks are passionate about what they're talking about, and I don't think that they should be blamed. I think it's okay to tell this woman, who I agree with 100%, that the $66,000 on the W-2 form is not what it costs the city. It costs the city in excess of $100,000 with benefits and healthcare, the thing that the pension, all of that stuff. It's not just $66,000. So that's okay. But there's a way to do that. And I don't think that was done properly a couple of weeks ago. I think things got way out of hand. What I think is the most important, and obviously it's been said by everybody that got up here, you have to find a way to hire some more folks to get this situation under control. I don't think anybody cares what way you do it. I've been a Republican my whole life. I never said to raise taxes. But guess what? Whatever you have to do to get some more people on the street, to get rid of the thuggery that's here, you have to do it. It's great to be asking those questions, where the money is going over there. I think there should be a check and balance system. That's great. Hiring people without the people who have the purse strings is just crazy. So that needs to be handled. I just don't know that this is the forum to do that. I don't understand, like, don't you guys get together other than this? No. Is that right? I mean, does that?
It's not through our fault.
Nate, part of it.
And I'm just asking a question.
And I'll try and answer for you. Part of it is by law.
Oh.
It would be nice, and yes, Jeff is right. I could have gone in there and simply one-on-one.
Well,
It
not
would have
even
been between
one-on-one.
the two of us.
We do meet
five
sometimes.
cannot
No.
walk
Jeff was at
in.
my office yesterday
No.
talking, so we do meet.
We cannot get together as 5 people with the mayor. It is against the law, and there will be people who, as just as quick, would say at this point, "Why don't you guys talk?" Would be
Right.
just as quick to say, "You guys just violated the Sunshine Law. You guys all need to be
Okay.
arrested." And
No,
fined
like I said, I was just
$100
asking the
apiece.
question, so
And
I don't know.
That's one of the problems.
Right.
The government, the state legislature, has tied the hands of this body and the mayor and the finances of the city so bad, and I repeated it last time and I'm going to say it again this time. The General Assembly of the state of Pennsylvania, unfortunately, can't get their act together to pass a budget. You realize that they started their second proposal and they haven't passed one yet?
Right.
Wolf may go through it for 4 years. But besides that fact, you know what? Until they untie our hands, we're stuck with the finances as they are.
Right.
And that's the biggest problem going.
Well, I also have to say that I think it's a definite improvement that at least these folks are here. The last administration didn't even show up at a meeting, which I thought was just unbelievable.
I agree.
So the back and forth, whatever it is, and to fix it and come up with the money, guys. We got to come up with the money to fix this city, man. Nobody's going to come here. Nobody's coming here to move here, to do business here, for anything if they're not safe. If you're dead, nothing else really matters, you know? So that's it. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
My name is Maximo Manzar, and all I want to do is just give you a reminder. I don't know if you guys realize in the past year or two how the criminals were playing the cops. They were actually doing a robbery over PQs. Meanwhile, they're robbing the Chinese store. They robbed the Chinese store. Meanwhile, they were robbing the other store in the PQ, and cops couldn't even get to them. When you see these cops around, they look like they're running 2 or 3 miles nonstop. They're exhausted. They're breathing heavily. They cannot even really look at the citizens and think properly. You can even tell. You got to leave and let them go. I look at Facebook and I see a cop in other cities. They're worrying about a skunk having a cup in their face, saving a skunk's life. I don't think they have time for that. They over there, teaching the kids and how to commute with the kids and dancing with the kids. I don't think our cops, or police officers, they have time for that. To lecture and show the young youth the way and make them feel that not to fear cops, but to be closer to cops. They don't have time for that. I mean, when there is a riot or something is going wrong, they never send one police officer or 2 to fix the problem. Normally, they send a whole army in there, and they keep the army locked down until everything comes into place. So if you bring 2 cops out there, they're going to figure out a way how to mute and take over and do other things. And then you're going to send another cop out there, and then, they're going to go and they're going to work around and dance around that one cop again. because the community is growing. I don't know if you guys didn't notice past 5-10 years, the growth of the community and how majority of the people are coming into this town. So you can't have one cop handle 3,000 or 4,000 people. What if you have 500 of them just rushing right here? Do you think your army can handle them? Do you think you have time enough to call them in to do something? I mean, is there a plan? Do you guys have a game plan together? And if you guys have someone who has such a great experience like Jerry does, wouldn't you want to listen and say, what is your game plan? You could put this city in your back pocket, and it doesn't have to take so much. Just an effort, communication, and a game plan, you guys can lock this thing down. If you don't want to do it, just throw your hands up and say, we don't want to do it. But I don't think it really takes a science rocket to say, let's cover the right area and let's make sure we get everyone who's doing crime out of Hazleton once and for all.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Mark.
Mark Rabo, First Street, Hazleton. I would just like to say that I identify with what the gentleman said and former Officer Leonard just said about the property values. Because the fact of the matter is, if you don't have people willing to come into the town, move into the town to buy properties, and you see for sale signs all over the place, and listings in the paper, like 5-6 pages worth of listings for sale. That's why property values go down. Same thing with what Dr. Sosar, you brought up about the gentleman with the tax foreclosure, because if you don't pay the tax, the county will sell your property. They will sell it without any remorse. So, I mean, that's what happens. And also, the fact is, Hazleton is not the only one. I mean, we'd like to think we're the only one that has this problem, but we're not the only one who has this problem right now with crime and with finding ways of revenue to, try to hire more police. Wilkes-Barre's having the same problem. They hired police, and they can't even find the revenue to keep those police officers they hired, so they might have to lay them off. York, Pennsylvania. My cousin lives down there. They had to lay off half of the police force last year because they couldn't maintain the payroll for the police, so half of them had to be laid off, and they have a worse violent crime rate than Hazleton does. So, I mean, to say that we're all in the same boat. We're not the only one. And I know it doesn't help when you think that, hey, we're experiencing hell and crime and all that other stuff. But the state knew about this. The state knew since 2003 that all the third-class cities were going to be in a problem. And guess what they've done? Nothing. They were told by the Pennsylvania Economy League in a report in 2003 that was issued that if they didn't reform the way the local taxes were collected, we would all be in trouble. We're in what the Pennsylvania Economy League calls financial quicksand. So the more we just don't do anything, the further we sink into the quicksand. And the more we resist or actually try to borrow money to try to pay the bills, we're putting us further in the quicksand. So that's what we need to do is we need to lobby the state in order to get the local tax structure reformed, and we also have to find new sources of revenue. I've pledged to work with the new mayor and this council to come up with the new sources of revenue, because we can't afford to just sit on our hands and do nothing. And if we don't, we'll end up in Act 47 like the other 11 third-class cities are right now. So we can't afford to do nothing and just to, fight amongst ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it for?
Good evening. Peter DeMarco. In the last meeting, I'm saying this constructively so that perhaps as council and leaders of the city, you can kind of look at yourselves in the mirror and see and correct what's going on here. In the last meeting, Dr. Sosar, you had mentioned that the legality of the tax increase you weren't sure of, and you had checked it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. All over social media was like, why at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? And it's a rhetorical question. I'm not asking for an answer. I'm just telling you what was stated by you. It was also stated that you've been here for 3 years and you're asking questions tonight about finances and stuff. So my question back would be, why hasn't this been resolved in over 3 years? Why is it continually going on? And the other statement you said, and agreeable, council takes care of the purse strings. So again, I ask the same thing. Why isn't all of this resolved? And I agree, everyone here has to be accountable for the finances, the mayor as well as you guys. So I'm not here pointing a finger. I'm asking you to look at yourself. Self-evaluate what you're doing here, everybody, and come together. You have a new mayor, you have a new police chief, and you have a lot to work with. But it can't be this ongoing pointing fingers back and forth, who's doing what wrong. Everybody's had a lot of time here to figure all of this out. It didn't just come up last month. It's been going on. And it's tiresome to everybody. In the papers, you had seen where the Holy Rosary Church on Poplar Street opened up for the homeless, finally, okay? There's a place for homeless people to go. But let me tell you how that happened. Faith Assembly Pentecostal Church, okay? Good News Evangelical Church, the Catholic Church, a Baptist church, and another church all had meetings about how to do this. And then the Catholic Church, one of the priests came up with about a $50,000 donation from the diocese to do it. 25? Okay. So my understanding was it was 50, maybe it was matched. But here and there...
It was matched. It wasn't matched. There were other agencies that contributed.
So the total came up
to about 35 to 40,000.
Okay, so semantics, but the money was there. But what didn't happen is they didn't say, this is ours, and we're doing this is ours. We still work together. I dropped off coats at St. Mary's from my church that were at Holy Rosary, from my church that were donated for the people. When I got there, there were brothers that I know and sisters that I know from Faith Assembly Church that were working at Holy Rosary at the shelter for the people to come there together. It wasn't a Catholic thing. It wasn't a Protestant thing. It was a joint community thing to get it done. That's exactly what we need to happen here. This isn't about you guys. I'm sorry, sir. I feel like you spent most of this meeting defending yourselves. It's not about you. It's about us. It's about the city. It's about us. That's what needs to be defended. We need to be defended, not your actions. We understand you have a job to do. We understand that he has a job to do, and we understand that sometimes it's adversarial. But it can't be adversarial all the time. And this is a time that it's a serious, serious situation. I was John Leonard's neighbor for a few years. I watched him chase down criminals on foot in front of our home. I can attest to what he just said here. And I thank God for men like him, because what they do is unbelievable. I was also his neighbor when he was in a shootout down Cedar Street that was popular, and he put his life on the line. And another officer, I believe, was shot. This is what these men do. We need this. Somehow, some way, there's been plenty of time to come up with the numbers. If you can't all five talk at once to the mayor, I'm sure 2 of you can go and not break the sunshine law. 5 of you can talk together and send a delegate to talk one-on-one. Please.
Okay, is that it? Okay, we'll move on to our meeting. We need to make a motion to go back on to the agenda.
I'll move that we go back on the agenda, sir.
Second.
Call for question. Question.
Question?
No, I said second.
Call.
Just call and roll.
Roll call.
Kuzo?
Yes.
Gavio?
Yes.
Mope?
Yes.
Sosar?
Yes.
Mundy?
Yes. Let's go, we're on old business ordinance, the ordinance 2016-3. Now, Sean, because of the recent ruling, do we even get to vote on this, or?
Why don't we
Go
let
ahead.
it die
Go
on
ahead.
the table?
Right. I would just let it die on the table because, as we found out, the EIT is at the max.
Okay, so this dies. How about the next ordinance?
Same thing, John.
Same thing? Okay. So, resolutions, non-new business ordinance 2016-6, modifying the consolidated plan for the CDBG program year 2013. First reading.
Present.
On the question?
Is anybody here from?
Is Fallon here?
No, she's on maternity leave.
Oh, she's on leave. Oh, Joe's here. What are we doing here, Joe? Could you?
$15,000 that was left from the 2013 program year, and as was alluded to a few moments ago, the pilot program shelter that was established by Catholic Social Services that opened last week, this money would be reallocated to be used to assist in getting that program off the ground and assisting them as they migrate to different churches throughout the community.
Okay.
Joe, do we know how long that's going to last?
Pardon me?
Do we know how long that's going to last?
I don't know for certain. I heard something about going through to when the warmer weather comes, but I don't know that far.
4 months is what they're saying.
Okay, because I have not heard a plan for this as of yet as to how long it was expected.
My kid's working there. He got actually hired through.
Okay, I'm not disputing it. I've not heard. I don't know who they hired as directors.
Yeah.
I don't know who they hired as counselors. Talking to people who have been involved in this for years, it was thought to be probably shorter than that. So if it's 4 months, that's a good thing.
Go ahead.
Do you know if it's going to continue up at one parish or
No.
will it move?
Apparently, they just moved it. It's empty.
And Most Precious Blood starting this week.
I know it's
And
at
it
my
goes-
church, Holy
then it goes-
Rosary.
But they are trying to get a permanent location. And so they're waiting for somebody they have 2 or 3 different places. The Cancer Center on 15th Street, from what I'm understanding, they're waiting for Lehigh Valley to give them an answer on that. And there's another place or 2 that might be the government has, and they're waiting for answers for those. They want a permanent place, but they're going to do the church thing until that happens.
Yeah, they used to do that with Vision up in Wilkes-Barre, and that's where they got the model from. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Roll call.
Kuzo?
Yes.
Gavio?
Yes.
Mope?
Yes.
Sosar?
Yes.
Mundy?
Yes. Next is Resolution 2016-32, authorizing the Director of Administration to adjust the records, refund of 2015 city real estate taxes.
Presented.
Second.
Bobby seconded. On the question? Roll call.
Kuzo?
Yes.
Gavio?
Yes.
Mope?
Yes.
Sosar?
Yes.
Mundy?
Yes. Next is Resolution 2016-33, residency requirement for employees of the City of Hazleton.
Present it.
Second.
On the question?
On the question. Go
David.
Grace.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, based on what may or may not have been thrown on out there tonight, and if it's a ruling, if it's a new decision, if it's a whatever, might we best look at what the decision is so far before we take any more action on this?
In other words,
Sean, okay, before that, did you look at this? Could we do this? Is it legal?
Legal, that word again.
Okay.
Is it legal? Personally, if this is something that council was considering, I think it should be presented as an ordinance. It would also have to be something, I would probably recommend it be beefed up quite a bit in terms of defining residency, in terms of dealing, another issue we have is dealing with our union and collective bargaining agreement contracts. That throws kind of a spoke into this situation. There's also some case law out there, and again, that's why I'd like to see the opinion that has come out, because there could be an equal protection clause violation if we impose a residency requirement on some employees while they're not imposed on other employees. So it might be a good idea to take a look at the opinion that came out and to re-examine this as an ordinance that
So
has a
you're
little bit
recommending
more.
we table this
Table it, and then you can get
till
back.
you research it?
Yes.
Okay.
This was for all employees. It was not selective.
Absolutely.
You know,
I
departments or-
understand.
They're only tentative employees. They would all be new hires, is what I was looking at. Okay, I mean, if you're talking about the union contracts. Well, if you put out that ad, well, one of those stipulations are a Hazleton resident or to become a Hazleton resident. Just like in the streets, you need a CDL license, or in.
But that would still have to be
120.
negotiated in the contract, right, Sean? It still have to be negotiated as part of their bargaining.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I don't think the union would allow us to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Who made a motion to table?
I'll make a motion to table.
Second. Roll call.
Kuzo,
No.
Gavio,
Yes.
Moak,
Yes.
Sosar. Oh, I'm sorry.
With reservations, I would like you to come back with an opinion as to the legality of the new law, and if we can find out where we go from that point on. Okay?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Sosar,
Yes, with reservation.
Monday.
Yes. Next is Resolution 2016-34, a resolution authorizing the transfer of liquor license number R 1047 and LID number 68107 to Cezanne Latino Restaurant Corporation for premises located at 58 North Wyoming Street, Hazleton, Luzerne County.
Presented.
Second.
On the question? Roll call.
Kuzo,
Yes.
Gavio,
Yes.
Moak,
Yes.
Sosar,
Yes.
Monday.
Yes. Next is Resolution 2016-35, approving a business building and aircraft space lease agreement and a limited commercial operation agreement between the City of Hazleton and BlackRock Aircraft Maintenance and Avionics, LLC, at the Hazleton Airport.
I'll present.
Second.
On the question?
Yeah, I'd like to, how did you want to correct the wording on this?
Well, I don't know if Dominic is still
That
here.
it was going to come back for council?
Oh,
That the wording?
how are we talking about rewording the resolution here in the first one, -35? This is the BlackRock one.
This is the BlackRock. This one was reviewed. I made some changes. Bill Miller is here tonight from BlackRock, and he's acceptable to the changes. I emailed them to him, and I went over them with him. And basically, the way it's worded is that the mayor is authorized to execute the said final agreements. So if there are any further back and forth between the city solicitor and or the attorney from BlackRock, that would be the final agreement at that given time.
Was the question, though, because
Right.
they're not.
Well, the changes that I made or the suggestions that I made today, if they are acceptable to BlackRock, that would be the final agreement.
Without coming back to council?
That would be, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call.
Kuzo,
Yes.
Gavio,
Yes.
Moak,
Yes.
Sosar,
Yes.
Monday.
Yes.
And just so you're aware, Mr. Williams is here, the managing partner. That would be from BlackRock. Just
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we're okay. Dominic went over most of what answered our questions. Thank you for coming. We wish you all the success, and if there's anything we can do to help, please let us know, and good luck. Next is Resolution 2016-36, approving an option and lease and easement agreement between the City of Hazleton and ECNR Solar Development Company, LLC, at the Hazleton Regional Airport.
I'll present.
Second.
On the question.
We did review this.
Yeah, and Sean looked at everything and straightened everything out that we had to.
And you're happy with it all?
That's what we were talking about with the
and
wording.
you're comfortable.
Again, my comments, I guess if there is any back and forth between the ECR Solar Development Company, if they don't accept my comments or anything like that, then there will not be a final agreement. And that's what I would obviously recommend to the mayor. We're just authorizing the mayor having the power to execute the final agreement. But if there is, I don't know if there's going to be any friction as to my comments, but I guess we'll find that out.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Kuzo,
Yes.
Gavio,
Yes.
Mope,
Yes.
Sosar,
Yes.
Mundy.
Yes. Next is resolution, thank you, Dominic.
Thank you.
Next is resolution 2016-37, directing the city's solicitor to research the viability of charging an impact fee on materials and those
Present it.
companies involved in the reclamation of mine lands.
Present.
I'll second.
Second. On the
On the
question.
question, this is a source of income. Should it be able to be instituted? Sylvia left, Mr. DeMarco left. To say that council isn't looking at sources of income and coming to the mayor is unfair. Do I know if this can be done? No. That's why it's going to the attorney for a legal opinion. And that is exactly what this resolution says. Now, we'll see what happens from there. There's nothing else you can do. And I hope council members will vote. All we're doing is asking the attorney for an opinion.
Can I say something? Last year, we approached a solicitor that we supposedly had hired for council. And as it turned out, we did approach him to look at this type of fee, impact fee. And one of our problems was we voted for this firm. The mayor refused to sign his contract. Therefore, this sat on the table actually until we had a new administration, and hopefully we can get something done to get this moving forward. This would bring money in not only for the impact that we have on our roadways from the heavy trucks coming in commercially, it would also help us, if we can, put money towards public safety, which would go towards the police officers. There's been a misconception that council hasn't tried. We have, but we didn't have an administration that would work with us. This is what we were hoping for with Jeff. In fact, I begged him and pleaded him to please work with council. Another misconception is we don't communicate. Well, as we said, we can't be five in a room. But Jeff and I, over the years he's been on council and I've been on council, and I know he's done it with the rest of the council members, have always been in phone call contact and discussed different things in different ways that we wanted. So it's not that there was this barrier that we don't communicate because we're not in a public meeting together. There's constant communication, whether it's by phone or whether it's by email. I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, thank you. Roll call.
Kuzo,
Yes.
Gavio,
Yes.
Mope,
Yes.
Sosar,
Yes.
Mundy.
Yes. Next is Resolution 2016-38, a resolution permitting the City of Hazleton to revise the local share account grant application on behalf of the Pennsylvania Theater of Performing Arts.
I'll wait until we're done with that.
I'll present.
I'll second for a question. I
On
thought
the
they had to be,
question? Go ahead.
they had to be submitted. by December 31st?
No, I think she called me up and said that it was an application that's still pending, and they needed to revise an amount because it was off a small amount.
Oh,
The
okay.
amount, yeah.
I thought they had to be all
Yeah,
submitted.
Dr. Childs, or Mrs. Childs called
okay.
me.
I just wondered.
Yeah, that's what it's for.
She initially called me the first time when they were putting it up, and I told her what she had to do. She had to contact Lisa.
Mhm.
And they put this grant application in, but evidently there was some changes in the amounts that weren't anticipated, so that's why it has to be amended.
Roll call?
Kuzo,
Yes.
Gavio,
Yes.
Mope,
Yes.
Sosar,
Yes.
Mundy.
Yes. That's it for our resolutions. Comments from the audience? Nobody's here? Go ahead, Tony.
Dominic Tallarico, Garfield Street. In the beginning of the meeting, the conversation has me confused a little bit as a taxpayer. You brought up that there's a $500,000 hole in the budget. I don't understand that. How do you pass a budget with a $500,000 hole in it?
Actually, you're not talking, I would read about the $500,000, if I can clarify. 5 police officers would have cost us $500,000 at $100,000 a piece for new hire.
I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is that this...
Let me take a shot at it. At the beginning of a year, when you're talking about starting a year, you don't have taxes coming in. Normally speaking, what a government has to do is take out what they call a tax anticipation note, what you've heard is tossing around tonight as a TAN. There's no tax money available. When you start January 1st, you haven't collected any EIT. You haven't collected any real estate. You haven't collected anything. And yet you have bills that you have to pay. You have salaries that you have to pay. You have things that you have to do. And the earliest that you can get any real estate money in is usually in March, because the bills are just about, when did they go out, Jeff? The 22nd? The 22nd of January? Which means that people are just getting them in February. Now, unless they pick up and they run right down here, at that very moment, there was no money in this city government to run. Not only that, but your predecessor here, who sat in that chair, or I should say didn't, left the mayor with a hole of $261,000. Now, you pay the bills with no money coming in as of yet, and a hole of $261,000. Okay? I'm not faulting him for trying to come up with money. I want to know, however, why that money, how it came about, why was that decided on, why was it decided upon about one person, and what is it going for?
Well,
Okay?
I'm not
that's
trying,
all that we're really talking
I'm
about.
not trying to be argumentative, but my
Right.
point is...
I'm not trying to be either. I just want to give you the idea.
The budget that was proposed that was not passed had another $520,000 in it.
In taxes.
In taxes. So if you need that money because you don't have $256,000 coming from the Water Authority and you couldn't collect $300,000 in uncollectible revenue,
Okay,
why didn't you leave that in there and pass that budget?
We don't know that.
Jeff, in your original proposal, you proposed that to take that out, and that was your .25.
We were just
we came
were
to
just
.21.
changing the revenue sources from the Water Authority and old debt to EIT, because it would have been a more solid.
I understand that because I looked at the budget that was proposed in November, but what I'm saying is it was said in the newspaper, this is probably not something we can collect, this is not revenue that we could count on, and the council voted that budget down. Now here we are, you're $500,000 short. You can only look back and say,
So
well, maybe the previous administration was right.
Well, that budget was passed in November with the $300,000 and the $255.
But it wasn't passed with the taxes in lieu of that, is what I'm saying.
No. So right now we're depending on $255 and $300.
You get my point, right? That budget would have worked right now. You wouldn't need the money that you're not getting.
No, you still would have needed it.
No, he had
No.
500,000 in real estate taxes.
Excuse me, but there would have been no money to start the year.
And that's where the money
There's
came out
no
of the
money to
pension
start a
fund.
year. That's why you either carry over from the year before, or you take out a tax anticipation note.
I get the
You
loan.
You cannot start a year with, unless you have surplus from the year before, which is called fund balance, you cannot have money to start the year. So no, what you're talking about might have been a hole at the end of the year, but you have no
Right.
money to start.
That's
You
what
have
I'm
no
talking
money
about.
to start a year.
I understand the loan, but what I'm saying is you still have to replace that money that's not going to come in. And his proposal, this ordinance right here had $700,000 in it that was not for police officers.
And you're talking about, so you wanted us to vote for an illegal tax.
Not this. What I'm saying is,
Well,
I'll
Mr.
put it
Yannuzzi
simply.
wanted an illegal
No,
tax.
I'll put it simply. After what the exchange that I heard take place, I don't know how much money was being spent. I don't know how much money is coming in. This has been going on since the beginning of Hazleton. Don't you have business software that you can put this information in and everybody can look at it and say, well, we don't have enough money, we do have enough money, here's where it's coming from, here's where it's going? How could you not know?
Excuse me, did you sit here for the last 2 years?
Yes, I did.
And did you hear anybody explain anything from that table?
How many times did I get told when I asked the question, just like you're doing, we'll get to that when we get to that
How
ordinance,
many times
please.
were you told that the city is in great shape and financially we're solvent?
Previous mayor kept us in the dark on most of the finances of the city.
I'm not
That's-
blaming you, and I apologize if it comes
No,
off
no,
that
no,
way.
no, no. But you know, you made a statement now, and you say, why don't you guys know this stuff? But you're sitting here saying that the empty table over there was okay, and that we should have known better. And I don't know how we would have known better, because we've been getting nothing from there. We've gotten more from this gentleman and his solicitor from the beginning of this year than we got in the last 2 years that I've sat on council. And if you've been here, and you have, then you know precisely that was the case.
I'll say something just a little bit simpler. What I'm saying is, we just had an opportunity to change things, and the time passed. It can't be done now.
No. We
No.
changed the budget to raise the EIT taxes 0.21 to hire 2 or 3 policemen, and we were going to get more money to hire more. We were told that you cannot do that. That's against the law.
I know, I understand that. And I was here for the one when you tried to raise it before, and I get all that. You can't do it, it's illegal.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make is, why can't you just tell us the truth from the beginning? Because
we didn't know the truth.
We're $14 million in debt, $32 million in pension debt. If you're going to pay for things with stuff like EIT and things that aren't necessarily 100%.
You know what? Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying, but where were your questions to Mr. Yannuzzi?
I asked
questions to
asked
Mr.
those
Yannuzzi,
questions.
because you know what? When we asked, we got nothing. And that is exactly what we've been saying all night tonight. That is why you and I and everybody sitting here, you know what? Do you remember what butting our heads against the wall was like for the last 2 years?
Yes. And what
Okay, so when you ask us, why don't you tell us the truth? How can I tell you the truth when I can't get information to start with?
If we're
seriously,
we're
answer
$40
my
million
question.
in debt, correct?
How do I do that?
If we took all the EIT that we have, that we get, and we put it strictly towards the debt and the pension deficit, it would take us 25 years without interest to pay that off. So why can't they base the revenue that you're spending on the property tax? Come up with that number and be done with it.
I want you to do that, and I want you to talk to Ms. Toohill. When you get a chance to see Ms. Toohill, I want you to go to her and ask her why she and the rest of the General Assembly sit there and twiddle their thumbs and do nothing to help not only Hazleton, Wilkes-Barre, Nanticoke, Plymouth, Pittston, West Pittston, DuPont. Should I go further? Or
I
you
get your
the
point. All I'm saying is, as a taxpayer, I would prefer if you said to me, if somebody sat down and said, this is our debt, this is how long we're going to take to service it, this is our expenses, to include something for maybe repairing the streets, to include hiring police officers that we need. This is what this will cost. I'm giving you our budget. This is your contribution, your responsibility as a member of this community. You plan your budget, you owe us this much, and it will cover it and service the debt. If you don't do that, then somewhere on down the line, either I'm going to have to pay it or somebody else is going to have to pay it, because someone's going to have to pay it.
I agree with exactly what you're saying.
So let's just
except
do
that
it.
Nobody gave us proper numbers.
Well, now
this is
change it
the
now.
first. Oh, thank you. But this is the first time we're talking about this. When the last 2 years did we get any of this? I keep on asking that question, but I don't get an answer.
That's fine.
When do we
would like
get
to see
answers?
I would like to see something come up that's accessible to the taxpayers. Put it in business software, Peachtree, QuickBooks, something that the average person that runs a business has, and let us see the information too, so we know what you're talking about.
And that's called transparency.
'Cause I'm
and
sitting
you know
there-
what? The person who sits there and should have been sitting there and telling you that information, and the ex-mayor who sat next to him, who should have been telling you that information, gave you what?
Nothing.
Nothing.
And I'm
Thank
not
you.
blaming all of you. All I'm saying is this is a different administration. It's a different council.
Yes, but-
So let's please do something different.
Just getting started, number one, okay, Dominic? And for 4 years, I begged for information. Initially, I started begging for monthly reports, which are due to us by city ordinance that was passed. We weren't getting them. Nobody got them. It took me 2 years of a fight till we got monthly reports. Then when we changed administrators, he did the monthly reports. Then with this new administrator, oh no, we don't do monthly reports. That's not how accounting goes. We give quarterly reports. We've spent years tracking the money to make sure that your money is utilized in the proper way, as best as we can, with the amount of information that we're given.
If you're going to answer a question for me or the public, what I would prefer, and I think most people would prefer in this case, is we want 10 more police officers, or we want more police officers, and the chief says we need 10 to make a difference. And you come back to me and say, listen, 10 police officers is going to require that we raise property taxes this much. And right now, yes, we're going to do it, or no, we're not going to do it because we don't think the crime in the city justifies that kind of action at this time. But don't tell me you're going to find new sources of revenue. I mean, you're trying to reinvent the wheel. The city's been running for how long? The revenue is where it's at. You're not going to get $1 million out of the sky every
That's
year
not fair,
consistently.
Dominic. Did you see Joe put that $1 million in the budget? And you know he was talking about, now I'm sitting in the same place you are, that he was putting it on the election, the ballot.
Yes.
That never happened, did it?
No, it didn't. And maybe you should do something like that. But what I'm saying is, just give us the truth. Give it to us straight. Either we're
Hey,
raising
honey,
your
I've been
property
doing this
taxes
for
or you're
30
not getting
years,
police officers.
and
That's
I
it.
know what you're
Dominic,
talking about.
Dominic, listen to me, honey. Most people don't understand optional law. Okay, that's what we go under. We make your laws. We do not administer the day-to-day operations of the city. If you do not like your streets and everything else that's going on, that is the mayor's job.
But he can't do his job without the money that has to get passed by you.
But we do the budget initially, and then what is there is what they have to live with, just like you have to live with your budget, okay, that you have to buy your product with for work and everything else. This is what we have to work with. This is the numbers that we were given by the administration, and we have to do the best. Our job even, and this is called checks and balances, shouldn't be to provide income, and you might argue with me on this. When you have a mayor that what we've had, not Jeff, but has spent and spent, all right, and then comes with this major tax increase. What do we have, 87 in 1 year?
86.
Okay, percent tax increase. Then when we receive this budget, it falls on council, find revenue. If it fell on the mayor to find the revenue as well, he would curtail his expenditures. they've had basically over the years an open check on spending. And we've had to bear the brunt when the budget comes to us to find this revenue. And there's no check and balance. It should be on their side of the table.
I'll stop after this, but I just want to say one more thing. You're talking about finding the revenue. There's only one place the revenue is coming from. I mean, I don't understand why that's overcomplicated. You're either going to raise taxes or you're not. Where else is it going to come from? If you do a fee, it's the same thing. It's coming from me.
That's right.
But the way I'm looking at it is you think you're saving me money. You're not. You have to spend it. If you borrow it, you're spending it. If you let things fall into disrepair, we're going to spend more. Sooner or later, I have to spend it. 15 years from now, when you're not in office anymore and you don't have to deal with it, I'm going to have to pay for it. I have a business in town. I'm here 7 years. The equity in my property dropped so much I couldn't sell it right now and break even. I can't take it anymore.
I understand, Dominic, and that's everybody is crying the same thing. When the market bubble burst, we were stuck with property values, and maybe this needs to be addressed once again to the county, that we can't sell our properties for what we're assessed at. We're being taxed out of our homes because the taxes are so high, they're at that bubble rate, and yet you're selling your property.
Jeannie, my taxes are $250 a year. My sewer bill is $480, and my water is close to that. So the little old lady that can't afford $100 a year, how does she afford $500 a year for a sewer bill? Nobody's complaining about that. Are you asking them to make concessions?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, what about the HCA? Are they making concessions or are they getting raises? I mean, let's be realistic.
Yes, Dominic. Grace has been on them as far as the expenditures go and what's going on, okay? Same thing with David. They got a contract now in for a lower garbage fee. So, I mean, the rate that we're paying now for the garbage contract is a lot less than what we were paying for our last haulers that we had for years and years, and nobody would look into getting a new estimate or a bid or a contract from another hauler. They just kept the same people on, and we were paying high amount of money. So now what we're trying to do is rectify those situations and make sure we're getting the best possible contractors with the best bids in.
Well, I apologize for taking up this much of your time, but I don't know another place to bring this up.
No, I agree with you. I think we have a criminal element that is taking over our town. And the only thing that's going to stop it is the police presence. And whether it be raising taxes, property taxes, we have to do what we have to do. Or your house will be worth nothing. You will get no business. And I said before, our only income will be drug trafficking from the seizures. And I'm sure all of council, the mayor, we're trying to work. We have to stop it before it gets any further. And we have to do what we have to do, regardless. I really believe that people will pay more taxes if they see something being done.
Well, I don't have.
And I'm all for. We got to start somewhere. With Jeff, us, we got to start somewhere. This is obviously illegal. We can't do the EIT tax. It's too late for the property tax. So now we're only at the option of looking for extra money. But in the future, it's part of life. Taxes have to be raised. Things have to be done just to take care of what is happening in Hazleton today.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dominic.
Anybody else? Anybody?
Come on up and tell me I'm the tax man.
Go ahead, Mark.
I gotta say something. Mark Rabo, First Street, Hazleton. You got, when you have no tax base, when your growth is at zero, and you're not bringing in any revenue, and you're going to just go to the well, and when the well is depleted, and you have nothing left, you're dead broke. Okay?
You're right, but why? Are people buying homes in the city?
No.
No, and you know why? Because their properties are worth nothing. We have people from out of town buying for nothing. When we get safety, you will now see businesses come in. You will now see people wanting to buy houses in the area.
I wish you were right.
Why do we not have if it wasn't 4 houses for sale, how big would the standard speaker be?
I wish to God you're right, Councilman. I wish you were right.
Safety trumps everything. It makes people want to come to your area. It makes business want to come to your area.
I wish to God.
One of our kids said right out when he was away, when he heard Hazleton, bad there, they're shooting. We have to get rid of that perception.
And you know why?
We have to do what we got to do to hire them. And the only thing that stops it, make no mistake, is a police presence. Look at Baltimore when they're having all the riots. When did it stop? When there was a police presence, it stopped.
You have a
We
huge
need more
addict
police
population.
because of the criminal element that is in this town.
The reason, Mr. Gavio, I live in a high crime area in
Right in the
my
crowd.
neighborhood. Okay, it's right across the street from me. I know high crime looks like. The thing is, the reason why you have all the gangs, all the hoods, as I call them, from New York and New Jersey coming here to Hazleton is because you have a huge addict population. If you didn't have the addicts, you wouldn't have the gangs to deal the drugs. You can't have one without the other.
Right. But our kids are being given drugs in school like candy. So how do you stop the dealer? Police. If they can get away with it, they'll get away with it. They will. I'm saying this is I think we have a criminal element that wants to take over our town, and we got to do whatever we have to do to stop it.
Maybe we need to look at bringing the officer that's with the theft for the cars. Maybe we need to bring him back. What do we expect to get from the DEA, from the officer, our sheriff? Are we expecting anything? I heard 300. Are we expecting that?
About 320.
Okay.
He more
And
than
now,
pays.
hasn't the governor said there'll be some halts on that now?
Well, I believe it is frozen right now.
Okay. How do you know how long we can see that frozen? Maybe it's worthwhile bringing that officer back, which will give you 2 officers back on the streets here in town.
They both do work in Hazleton.
Grace.
They both in Hazleton.
There's another way. Lieutenant Governor Stack, he was visiting the HIP Center a couple days ago. I forget what day it was, but he was there. He cast a tie-breaking vote against elimination of school property tax, which would have given the taxpayers $400, $500 extra in their pocket. Do you think, Mr. Gavio, that couldn't have been used to pay for get police?
Well, certainly.
There you go. But the governor.
The bottom line is reality is here, and it is what it is. I wish, like you said, Tara Hill would put it's like the IEIT tax is legal. I'm saying we have to do what we got to do. I mean, a little bit of tax. I'm sure our council right now is looking for ways to get more money for police. I mean, sure, the mayor's looking right now.
Yes.
I think we're at a point where safety has to trump everything.
I agree. We have to pay
Mark,
for it.
Would you buy, if you had to buy a house, you say in your crime area,
Yeah.
say, would you buy a house across the street, move from there and across the street, or would you go to an area that's less crime? Where would you go?
I go to
Now,
an
be
area
honest.
of less crime, of course.
And that's what people are doing. There goes our tax base. I mean, they're moving out of these areas that are crime areas more. And if we make them safer,
I want to know something.
The
Did
city
everybody
has
think this just happened?
No.
Please.
No.
Please.
We let it go
answer
to
that.
this point, Grace. You're right.
You
it didn't
think
just
this
happen.
just
We let
happened.
it go to this point and did nothing.
Well, I'm sorry. I said something long time ago, Bobby, and you weren't here saying a word.
Hopefully we do it now.
Well,
This
you
didn't
know what?
happen overnight.
Mr. Officer
Okay.
White works
Okay.
with the state police. He works with the state police. Why can't we bring him back to the city
For what?
to work? He's a police officer to work full time. There's a police officer.
Excuse me. Well, where's also our chamber and the illustrious Can Do to bring in more revenue into the city? Where are they at? Councilman Gavio, Councilwoman Kuzo, and the rest of the council, where are they at?
I didn't hear your question. I didn't hear it.
Where's the Chamber of Commerce and Can Do out to promote, to build and also to at least promote and get businesses to come here? I know there's crime, but Paterson, New Jersey has crime too, and Paterson, New Jersey's building, and they have a ton of crime, and they've got
The new police chief just told us that from Patterson, the crime went down 43%. Maybe that's why it's growing. Is that what he told us, Jeff?
Oh.
Didn't he say
Oh,
crime in Patterson is
Okay.
When
Okay,
people
okay,
see-
okay,
what
Jack,
I'm
one
saying
more
is when
thing,
people
one more
see
thing. I have to say
different
this.
tax-
Go ahead.
Give him a
10, last year when we had warm weather in November 5th to be exact, okay? In Patterson, New Jersey, there were 11 shootings within 10 hours. Okay? 11 shootings in 10 hours. That pretty much was the worst day in 5 years in Patterson. I know Councilman Gavio because guess what? Guess this. My father's family lives in the outskirts of Patterson. I know Patterson as well as I know Hazleton. So to say that Patterson, and plus it's ranked number seven by the FBI as the most dangerous city in the country.
It's good to relax.
7. Okay, this is not Mark Rabo saying this. This is the FBI saying this.
If they quote stats that say it was a bad area, it was well known it was a bad area.
It's the city. It's Patterson City.
Crime is down 43%, Mark. If we get that crime down 43% by what we do, then you'll see people saying they're doing something. Crime's getting down.
But it's in 2015, Councilman Gavio. This was in 2015, the FBI.
Let me agree with you. We left it go too long. We left it go to this point where maybe if we'd have got more police years ago,
Bobby, we had 100,000 in the budget last year to hire part-time police, and they didn't do it. But too long. That was their decision.
It's at the point where we have to.
I agree. We have to do something.
Yeah.
I agree. But we should do it the smart way. We should do it the smart way. We should do it to where we save the city and also not punish the taxpayers, keep them in their homes, as well as get more police. That's what we should
Mark,
do.
I feel for the taxpayers, but when you call the police and you want them there, when you call a fireman when you want them there, when the city crews plow your streets, it's not free.
I want both.
You must
I want
pay.
both.
It's that simple.
I want both. I think you should want both too.
I want
all. Thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jeannie.
I just wanted to say, yes, we did put 100,000 in for part-time police. We were hoping that they could be utilized for the menial tasks, and they could alleviate our full-time police to be able to be out on the major crime situations that we had in the city. That's what that money was for. It was just to help out. It was to give them a helping hand to alleviate the menial tasks, free them up, and they could focus on the more important crime issues in the city. You know, we've asked for it, we pushed for it, we put money in for it, we tried to get it, and nobody came to the meetings. I mean, a part-time police officer would have been a help, but they didn't come. Nobody demanded more police then. I mean, I don't think the crime was that much lesser last year, but nobody came. But because they're insisting on us having 5 cops, which we do need, and don't argue. I'm not arguing it at all. Maybe we need 20. But the problem was we weren't able to raise the taxes because of the law with the EIT. We reached our maximum. Also, the people have been worked up and stoked up. We've got crime. We do have crime. We know about it. We've been trying our hardest to try to figure out and come out ways to fight this and to help the police department. I mean, that's why we came up with the part-time officers. It was to be a helpful tool. But, you know, when we're trying to do something positive and all we get is negative, that doesn't help. Also, the lady brought up earlier in this evening, God bless her, and thank you, Nathan Lee, for bringing up that money that I read off at the last meeting for salaries was salaries, but we called it total wages. And he was right. That included all the benefits. But that's what it cost us for those few officers. And that was not top or bottom. That was somewhere in the middle, all right? And I don't think people realize when all is said and done, it's not what they're taking home, and I don't begrudge them what they're taking home, but it's all the total contribution it takes for us to get there. So we have to find that money. And those figures came from our Mr. Prabula, the city administrator. I didn't make them up. They were from him. Unfortunately, that's the reality we face. So when we have these figures and we're looking at them, and then, like I said, we're expected to either give a major tax increase, okay, or find revenue, it falls on our shoulder to try to help the taxpayers not receive that major increase, and then the burden of finding revenue. And Dominic seems to think that's the only way we can find it. Well, no. Like I said, we had the impact fee. We had come up with quite a few things. We wanted to develop the Arthur Gardner Beltway and try to bring a tech school in and use the other part that was light industrial to have an incubator place for these people to come after their training was done at a tech school. And it didn't matter if it was for electricians, plumbers, computer work, software technicians. We needed something that could bring our people up to a higher level, because we were told that the industrial plants were very short-handed. They didn't have enough contractors to come in to do this type of work. So, I mean, we looked at different avenues. Why that didn't transpire at that time was because we discovered the mine fire that's going on, which the Water Authority is fighting. But other than that, we would have tried to really push it and pursue it. We need to bring jobs into the area, and that is a fault of us as well as the other entities, such as Can Do. We seem to only brought in low-paying warehouse jobs. We have a lot of temp agencies. With better jobs coming in and better pay, then the people can afford to pay higher taxes, all right? It's a vicious circle that we've been going and running and chasing our own tail through. But this is one of the other factors that Mr. Rabo brought up. Having that income come in with higher salaries can go a long way for our people in this town. So I would like us to consider not just looking at council, but also looking at the other entities and asking them, what are you doing for us? When I see paperwork coming out of Can Do, and the promotion seems to be centered on Township, not on Hazleton. Who's selling Hazleton for us? We need jobs. Then we can get police and we can get protection. Thank you.
Any other comments from the audience? Go ahead.
Trying to understand this letter that I got from Northeast Revenue Services Saturday.
Excuse me, I need your name.
Todd House Connect.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I received a letter 2 days ago that my home's going up for upset sale in 2 weeks. March 1st, actually, is the date. It says, I don't even own the home a year. I'm behind one payment on real estate taxes. I was out of work all year because I was really sick. And I thought like it was supposed to be like a year delinquent before you even get this.
We're gonna. I think the mayor is gonna help you with that. His
If you guys,
his friends,
and we'll get in touch with
his friends at Northeast Revenue could help you with that.
Okay.
But yeah, after the meeting,
call the office tomorrow,
and they'll help you.
and I'll help you.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have the number? Or, no, my number.
Yeah.
Call my cell phone's 570 Hi Mayor. It's an easy one, and just call it, and I'll take care of that. We'll work it out tomorrow.
what is that again?
Hi Mayor.
Hi, Mayor.
446-2967.
I'll give you his cell phone. I'll give you his cell phone number if you want it.
Okay.
I'm the only one who hasn't memorized. The rest of them have to
Okay.
look in their phones.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Comments from the mayor?
I'd just like to say that I'm happy to say that we did get the window open this week, and there have been people walking in. Our texting for tips actually helped us solve a crime this week. That the website has had a lot of traffic so far. Our commercial has been shot this week and will start airing soon. And that there's a fundraiser for the police department on Thursday at the Pines at 5 o'clock. Besides that, just try to be safe tonight when you're driving.
Yeah.
And be aware of the DPW guys out there and give them the room that they need to
Where'd my
get their
husband go?
jobs done.
Right there.
That's it.
He's right here.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Mayor. Comments?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If I may, regarding the Office of Community Development, we're waiting for our final allocation for HUD, what our amount is going to be for fiscal year 2016, prior to presenting it to the budget before council and the ordinance. So as soon as we get that allocation, we will have that for you. And the one that was on display back in November at the request of HUD was removed because they asked us to not post any drafts or anything until we get our final allocation.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Jack, can I have 1 second?
Go ahead, Sean. Yeah, go ahead.
Just in terms of Resolution 2016-37, just in terms of that, we think there might be a preemption issue, but we will get a full opinion on that. The only thing, I know my office, we obviously don't want council to have to pass resolutions to get issues.
I know. I sent you an email to Donnie, I think. I don't know if I sent it to you, but maybe you could, instead of doing it, to get a consensus before we have to do this. I agree. We shouldn't have to do this.
Right.
Okay.
Sounds
Thanks.
good.
Thanks, Sean. Comments from junior council?
They're not
Or
here.
Comments from council?
They went home.
Bobby, you want to say something? Grace?
I'd like to say something about the use of the EIT. I'd like a copy of the email, whatever you got, okay, approving it, and or saying that that you can do this. Then the minutes from the pension board approving it. And when's your next pension board meeting? Well, I don't know. I never saw it posted anywhere.
Probably hasn't been.
Probably not. And now, Mr. White, Officer White, he works in the city?
He does spend time.
Yeah,
in the
he
city.
works in the city when he's working for the...
He's 100% funded by the state police. He gets
Yes.
a vehicle. He pays his health benefits.
I know, I remember
So
when it went on.
Everything. So we don't gain or lose anything by having him come in.
But we're not
If he-
gaining anything
but
either.
If he comes into
And
the
your
city,
contention is
if
we
he
need...
comes into the city, he is one of our highest paid officers, which we're going to have to pay for.
He was already budgeted. If you go back and follow the budgets.
He's not.
Okay.
He is in the line item
Okay.
in the beginning where it says reimbursement from the
Yeah.
state police. He is not budgeted, neither is the other guy.
If you follow going back before he went in with the state police, the budgets,
Before
okay?
maybe, but this year he is not. He is.
Okay.
If he's in that line item, it's reimbursed by the state in the line
I
item.
understand it's
on the first
reimbursed.
Page. But if he comes back in, we have to pay him out of our own.
Now, how long do you expect the officer with the DEA the monies to be held up? I mean, is it going to be worthwhile to bring him back maybe?
No.
Okay.
We get over $300,000 a year from him. So if we have to.
Well, not every year you don't.
It's been that way. The last 3 years, it's been 300,000-ish.
Okay. Last year?
Last year, I can't help it the way they spent it, but we got it.
Okay, it was all right. Now, the use of it, you'll get me that information of the EIT?
I'll work on it. I can give you the emails now. I don't know the minutes from the pension board. I don't know if they exist, if they're needed.
You don't? Oh, well, I don't mean you. I don't know if you had a meeting yet. So yeah.
Had a meeting. Was we one scheduled? You're on the pension board too.
I'm on the pension board. I think the last meetings that I had when Joe invited me, I don't think they even took minutes, but yeah,
okay.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't know what they did at the last. I haven't been at the last couple of meetings. I was into some during the summer when they were switching the Jenny Mead, the new company.
Oh, yeah.
I went to those meetings.
So
Is that it?
And
Chris?
is there a possibility of getting a copy of that pension account for the last 3 years?
Pension account?
Yeah.
I'm sure if you ask Tom for it, he'll send it over. He has it. I don't have access to AccuFund.
Okay.
I think, Lisa, you have access to AccuFund?
No, just small reports, nothing.
I know at
nothing
one
like
time,
that.
Jeff, they talked about us having access to make print reports.
Well, that's why I thought because it's $1,000 per person, per license. That's why I thought at least they had access to it.
No, but I think they talked about being able to access it, not for us just to print reports, not for us to be able to alter it in any way, just be able to print reports.
And
I remember they're saying about the license. They asked Lisa for training, but every person is $1,000 license.
Okay.
So.
I'll close up.
Comments? Dave, you want to go, or Jeannie, you want to go?
I have something I have to ask them. This has been
Go ahead.
an ongoing problem for 4 years. Now, Kevin Eberly wrote up a letter to the editor this week. Maria Cicchetti had done an article about the tractor trailers up in the Heights. I spoke with Frank DeAndrea on this.
I contacted. Came up. What's the company up there?
It's Multiplastics.
I
and
contacted
they're
them last
willing
year
to
to
do
dedicate the road to them. If we dedicate the road, which I believe we talked about last year,
Yes.
and it died. If we dedicate the road and make an agreement with them, it would show up on their GPS, and that would
Yes.
be that would.
All we have to do now. What
I
the
had
holdup
contacted them before.
was Russell was supposed to get back to Frank DeAndrea, and he said, "Name it whatever you want to name it. Okay, we don't care. Name it after your mother, your father, your wife, whoever." And I guess there was no correspondence back and forth.
I talked to them last year.
I've been talking to Multiplastics for the last 4 years. They are very willing to cooperate. They maintain the road now. They're willing to tar it. They do all the snow paving. And what most people don't understand is we get heavy-duty tractor-trailer traffic through the Heights. Maria almost got hit the other day. I've had a vehicle hit by the tractor-trailers because they are meandering around the Heights due to the fact that GPS system directs them that way. There is nothing to direct them other than Dietrich Avenue, which is cut off by a business that is called Hajokas. So then it leaves them wandering and asking for directions. But the problem is it's a school zone, all right? We have children that are going back or playing in the summertime, and we have heavy-duty truck traffic up there. The neighbors have complained through the years, and as I said, that was one of the reasons that the power was out up on the Heights. I believe one of the tractor trailers were leaving the Multiplastic plant and took the telephone pole down about 2 weeks ago or so. It's become quite dangerous. So I really wish that somebody in the administration can really put a push on this, because the people up there are really tired. They're tired of waiting. So if you can look into this, Sean, for us, we need that name on that road. I don't care what happens, and we need to have the ability, I guess, of an agreement with them taking care of that road. But once the GPS is named and that street is named, it will direct the trucks to go up Arthur Gardner Avenue instead of going, and the terrace also has a problem too, because they're coming in through 93. Now, where Arthur Gardner reaches 93, where the traffic light is by Coxville, it would direct them up on Arthur Gardner as well. So on both ends, it would alleviate the problem.
We can take care of that. No problem. I can get to work on that.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for coming and staying here through the cold tonight. We appreciate it.
To the select few that are here, thank you for staying. Be very careful tonight as you go home, okay?
Helping your